people have their camera off. So this is a workshop. So we're actually going to do some work. And for that, I also need interaction with you guys. Otherwise, this would just be a presentation, which it's not. So I'd like to kindly ask you all to turn on your cameras so you can actually see and interact with you. That is not just a one-way street. And that also means that even though we've had Corona and we've gotten used to all sitting at home and maybe even being a little bit passive at times because of it, it will be so much more fun also for you guys if there's engagement, meaning that if I ask a question and you have an idea of an answer or something you'd like to say or a remark or a question, you can speak up and do this. For this, it's very simple. If you want to say anything or if I ask a question and want to answer, just use the raise hand button and then we go through that. So feel free to ask me questions at any given time, because the best thing is if we kind of get a discussion going, because a lot of these topics, they're very subjective on what works and what doesn't work. So that's that. Then about me. So I'm a career coach here at The Shortcut. I'm also the community manager at The Shortcut. At The Shortcut, we help highly skilled foreigners to find their way in Finland, integrate, and mostly we help with either finding work or with starting a company. We do both. I myself, I'm a foreigner. I've been living in Finland now for 8 or 9 years. I've been here so long that I can't remember anymore, actually. I love it here personally. I always say Finland is as close as you can get to heaven. And I would like people to have the same experience, although I'm also very aware that not everybody has the same experience. Finland seems to be quite the odd dog out, even when it comes to Europe, but also when it comes to the Nordics. Things go different here. The way that finding work works is different. One of the main things I hear from people, from foreigners, is they say, oh, I get like job offers in my own country. I get job offers from abroad, but not here in Finland. What the hell is going on? And that's a very fair question to ask. Things go different here, and adjusting to that and learning what those differences are a huge benefit. And that's where transferable skills definitely come in. Once you learn to navigate the job market here, you notice that it's actually not as hard as it may have seemed in the start. But we can get back to that later. So I specialize in communication, and I specifically specialize in networking. So if you have any questions about that, also don't hesitate to ask me. So I thought that first we could start with a warm-up, because it's early in the morning. At least I'm still pretty tired, and also I'm trying to wean off coffee. So I've been on the decaf, so my blood isn't yet properly flowing. So I thought we'd first do a warm-up. If you can, maybe stand up a little bit from your chair, get away from your desk. And then I thought that we can first start with a proper stretch to kind of get the blood flowing. So we stretch all the way up, stretch as hard as you can, and then go down. Man, sometimes I feel like I'm 60 years old already. And then I thought we can take a deep breath in. You go. Okay, let's do one more. Yes. All right, at least I feel a little bit better. I'm gonna have a sip of water while we're at it. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, as I said, this is a workshop, and I'm gonna put the work into workshop, but we're gonna start easy. First, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a little discussion amongst ourselves, because what are transferable skills? How do they work? What are the benefits? Does it even matter? If it doesn't matter, why not? If it does matter, why? Do you know any transferable skills that you have? Any of these questions go, and any of these answers go. Who would like to start? You can raise the hand icon. Yes, Lawrence.
Well, hello, everyone. And I apologize in advance if I'm inarticulate. I'm still really jet lagged. I just arrived. Um, my understanding of transferable skills are things that are industry agnostic. So, for example, for many years, I was a theater director, which involves managing all sorts of interesting personalities. And I then transferred at the start of the pandemic to working in video games. And while there were all sorts of technical and industry specific skills that I had to get up to speed with, managing people and managing a creative endeavor wasn't that different.
And you say it wasn't that different. Like, uh, why did it matter to think of those as transferable skills?
Um, it mattered so that I could get funding for my company and present myself as like a legitimate individual. I had no, working in the arts is quite different from working in other sectors in that there's like, you don't have a LinkedIn, you don't apply for jobs, like it's all, you make work, people see your work, and based off your reputation, you get hired for things and so on. And so to go from this kind of medieval environment to something more contemporary, specifically like in the tech world that is so codified in terms of how you get a job, it felt important to be able to sell that skill of managing people and creative pipelines.
So, in your own words, what would you say would be, what's the difference between managing people in a tech company compared to theater, and what are the similarities?
Uh, I guess the differences are, I think, personality types to some degree. In the arts, I would, these are obviously vast generalizations, but specifically in theater, you work with people who are very emotionally intelligent
Mhm.
and good at communicating how they're feeling, but it also means you're experiencing how they're feeling all the time. And a lot of space needs to be allocated for that. Um, and I'm not, there's no judgment here. It's just, that's kind of the environment of it. But there's also a lot of trust in a theater hierarchy, for better or for worse, because there's a very established order of things. And so you can move mountains in minutes when everybody's on board, but also attending to each individual and kind of where they're at emotionally and in their life is a thing. Whereas I found in the tech world, things are kind of it's much more about people having a clear understanding what their duties are and what their deliverables are. And because we have these kind of colder codified things in terms of like Scrum or Agile management, you are less engaged with kind of the individual and more of how do you both fit into this machine and how are you the different cogs, and you use whatever terminology that people are comfortable with to organize their duties in life.
Right.
And I know that sounds kind of damning. It's not it's totally fine, but it's just, yeah, a very, very different temperament and different work cultures. But at the same time, in terms of things that are the same, you're thinking about the goals, both long-term and short-term. You're thinking about, if you're managing people, what each of their individual goals are. And if they're regularly reaching them, you want to make sure that they're doing okay and they're not hurting themselves to achieve that regular goal. But if they're not achieving them, you want to see why that is. Is it because they're, too much is being put on their plate? Are they not understanding the assignment, both long-term and short-term? Is there a bottleneck somewhere in the pipeline that you haven't accounted for that's affecting them? Is there just interpersonal conflict in a small team? Endless things. But
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
basically across, I would say, all the industries I've been a part of are similar.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Lawrence. I think it's really interesting also because quite often we think that certain skills fit only a very specific job, but you realize later on, like, hey, wait a minute, I can use a lot of my skills all over the place. Even something as specific as like painting could even be something can be a transferable skill, maybe depending on how you look at it. And one thing that we'll also get back to later is like, if I have a certain skill, what skills are in that skill that might be transferable? Anybody else has an idea on what transferable skills are or what they mean to themselves? I'm a very patient man. Rachel, what about you?
Hi. So I suppose I think of them as two types of transferable skills, really. There's the sort of, things like communication, like Lawrence mentioned, and then the sort of more practical things like financial management, which are something that could be relevant in a job in all sorts of different industries. I think people management's a big one, communication, organizational skills is a broad one that can apply to anything, time management. And I think in my experience, really, so I'm a project manager in the cultural sector, and I have considered looking at work in other sectors in the past, but I've actually ended up sort of sticking to the same sector. And it's possibly been that although I can see that there are skills that I could transfer from one area to another, when I come to actually talk about them and think about the examples that I would use, obviously then I'm kind of focusing on my previous experience. So it always seems more relevant to respond to advertisements that use the same sort of language and are asking for examples that are directly relevant to my experience.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, what's interesting is that one thing that I've once did was I made a CV, but I solely made it on transferable skills. So what was interesting that once I had that CV ready, I actually showed it to some of my friends and family, and I asked them, what kind of jobs fit this? And people gave me very different examples of jobs that fit that than I ever would have thought about. So to give an example, so by diploma, I'm a social worker. I used to do that in the Netherlands, but my diploma isn't valid here in Finland, so I had to reinvent myself. And once I made this transferable skill-based CV, then I showed it to people, and people were like, hey, you could maybe be a community manager, or you could maybe be an office manager, or indeed a career coach or something like that. And without that exercise, I would actually never have figured this out. So it can also be a really good way of looking at yourself to see like, hey, what more am I than what I have studied or what I've previously done at work? Chelsea, you also had your hand raised earlier.
Yeah, thanks. It was sort of a mix between Lawrence and Rachel. I was going to talk about sort of time management, but then I thought going that further level, prioritization skills. So that's something that has been transferable for me in different parts of my career. Started off as a frontline nurse. So had to manage a caseload of clients, and often the plan changes minute to minute sometimes. And then as I kind of moved into more of a quality improvement project manager role, still that same thing happened, because you have sort of, these are your day-to-day tasks, but then you have emails coming in and people calling you. And so what needs to get done right now versus what can be postponed. So that's one that has served me well throughout my life.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Isn't it interesting that You know, we often think that certain skills we have, they don't mean a lot per se, because it seems so casual, you know, like time management or even like project management. But if you're good at it, that's an amazing skill to have. And like, there's not one job that I could come up with where project management is not part of it in some way or form, right? What it does come down to, and we'll definitely get back to that later, is that are you able to express the skill in such a way that the person in front of you understands that you have it? So what happens a lot is this. I'll ask a person, what skill do you have? And they say, for instance, managing people. And I'll ask them, okay, now give me an example. And they say, well, I just manage people. So they might be good at it, but if I say I just manage people, I didn't explain anything. So now the person in front of me cannot know that I'm good at it. All right. I'm going to try and pronounce your name properly. Vijaja. Hope I didn't.
Yeah, that's so BJ. Thanks for making an attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I joined in late, but I could actually get onto the train of thought. So for me, so I just joined in when you asked what the transferable skills actually meant to each one of us, right? So for me, I think transferable skills could be of two types. One is the ones that you can just leverage from your previous experience directly because you already see them at a maturity level that the next job requires, or maybe a different job that you haven't done requires, so that you could just plug and play right away, right? And then the second type of skills that I think can also be transferable are basically some of the skills that you carry on from your previous experiences, but you build on them, okay, to be I would say viable enough to do your next job or probably that next career move, which is probably not totally relevant to what you did before, right? Again, the transferable skills for me would be uh, soft skills sometimes. Per se, the bits like that other colleagues of mine on this call express, like teamwork or communication skills and basically interpersonal skills and so on and so forth. And they could also be the hard skills, which you would have learned by the virtue of being associated with a particular kind of trade, right? It could be anything for that matter. It could be a function, it could be a particular business, basically your knowledge that you carry on. So that's, yeah, my 2 pence.
Actually, well, thank you. So actually what that reminds me of is also the following, and this is to me very important for, especially for foreigners here in Finland that want to change their careers. That is that we're so hyper-focused often on what we have on your CV, and we do forget that we have other skills. I have a really nice example of this. I had this lady in my office once, and she was like, Joppa, I've been a house mother, like a house mom for like 10 years. I have no skills. What do I do? How do I get a job? I don't know where to start. And she didn't have almost any work experience whatsoever. And she was like, I can't do anything. I don't have any papers. I don't have any diploma. I have nothing. Then I started asking her questions about things that she achieved in her life. And she talked about her kids and other things. But it became interesting when eventually she said, well, I organized my own wedding. Now, here's the thing. Normally, that would not have interested me that much per se, but she's from India. And I was like, I asked her, like, how many people came to your wedding? And she said, well, 1,000 people. So then I learned that she actually organized the whole wedding by herself for 1,000 people. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. You thought you had no skills. You thought you had nothing. But actually, you could be an event manager. And she had the proof of having done this one big event. Now, I'm not saying that's always a solution. I'm not saying that automatically means that people will start hiring you. But it definitely is a place to start from. Like, hey, what skills do I have? Wait, I had another thought before I lose it. What was it? No, it'll come back to me. Liz.
Yes, hi, thanks. I'm Liz, and I first I want to say, Lawrence, I appreciated everything you said because I come out of a theater background, and I thought that was such an incredibly accurate description of some of the ways in which the theater hierarchy operates. I work as a professor. I'm a visiting researcher here at the University of Helsinki, and I'm in a sort of a related to theater, a field called performance studies. So very humanities-based qualitative research world. And one of the things that every time I've ever thought about looking outside of academia, or I've sort of started to explore the possibilities, one of the big questions I have regarding this concept of transferable skills actually revolves around language, because the language is so radically different in at least the academic and performance worlds that I've been in, from the corporate language, like even things like Agile and Scrum, or soft skills and hard skills like Vijay just mentioned. There's this real specialized language that happens and from my view, the professional non-academic world. So identifying transferable skills almost feels like a secondary step to me. The first step is, how do you talk about what you do in a way that makes sense to people outside of the world that you have been living in?
Yes. Well, so later we'll get back to that. I have a formula for you for that. We'll practice that. I'm going to tell you already this. It's not easy. The formula is very simple, but doing it is a matter of practice, because as I said, often we already assume that we think people will understand us. And we do constantly things like this. And this happens to me every day while I'm career coaching. So I'll give an example. I'll ask a person, tell me how you've used one of your skills. And they say, well, when I was working there and there, we did this and that. I'm like, why are you talking about we? I need to know that you did it. So that's one example already, right? And the other thing is, as I said earlier, people will think that if I say I just did it, then people understand it. So they'll say, let's say, what's an example? Let's go with time management, right? Okay, so time, I manage time. I ask them how, and they go like, well, I just make a calendar. Well, I didn't tell you anything. So exactly as you say, Liz, how do I say that in such a way that whoever is in front of me understands this? And here's the thing, especially if you have a hiring manager in front of you, they might actually not understand even what you're talking about, right? So even that person has to understand from you that you know what you're talking about. But there is a way how to express it in such a way that people will understand. And we'll get back to that later. I thought, let's play a little game, actually. Let's play a little game. I want to see, I'm going to ask somebody to come up with a skill that they think is not transferable. Not transferable. And then let's see if me and you guys can come up with the reasoning how that would transfer to somewhere else. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Who thinks they have an idea of a skill that is non-transferable? Just raise your hand. Andrea.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Maybe it could be something like a software that is used in a very specific industry. For example, I don't know, I'm thinking, I don't know it myself, but like I was in the interior design field, so I used to work with a renderer. I wouldn't do the 3D render myself, but something, for example, using like a 3D drawing software.
Right, got it. Okay, so in this case, you're talking about a very specific kind of software for a very specific kind of job. Okay, I already have an idea, but does anybody have an idea how a skill like that could be transferable? Suganya.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suganya, and according to me, the skill which is not transferable from one job to another is, I think, the technical skill, because I'm from fashion industry and I cannot, now I need to switch to IT. Like my thought was like that. but I'm still I hesitate to go because my technical skills is totally different from the IT, because other than that, I can manage everything like organizing or communication, everything is okay, but I'm a bit hesitate to transfer my fashion skills to IT, maybe that one.
Okay, wait, let's park that just for a second. Let's first go with Andrea's example, and then we get back to you, Suganya. So Andrea said very specific software. So who has an idea how that could be transferable anyway? Travis.
I think if it's good morning, everyone, as well, and apologies for my washing in the background. I think if it's like a really specific, like 3D rendering, that to me says that that's like a complicated piece of software. So you have the ability to, pardon me, to learn something like that. So if whatever industry you're going into, if there's a particular bit of software or whatever that you would need to learn, you've already proven you've done it once, so you could do it again.
I 100% agree. Very good. Now we're starting to think already in the right way. So in order to have the skill of this programming language, to use this program, my apologies, you first had to have the ability to learn how to use it. So very well done, Travis. That's already, at least part of that is transferable. Angeliki.
I was about to say the same thing, that it means that the next time you have to use a new software, it will be easier for you to learn. You will spend less time, so this is easier for the onboarding process. You will much faster be able to even help your partners or your colleagues, whoever you're working with, and you can easily come up with new ideas. So I think it's definitely transferable.
Yeah, very well done. So now we're getting to the nitty-gritty, actually, because what's truly interesting is not only that it is transferable, but also that you use that, for instance, in the hiring process. So you said it very, very well. So does it make sense, for instance, to say to a future employer, like, hey, I don't know your software yet, but I've learned this really challenging program in the past, and this is how I learned it, and I'm going to do the same with your piece of software. Lawrence.
Specifically to this example, a lot of the software that is used in interior design is either part of like an Autodesk suite or an Adobe suite. So even if you're using something like AutoCAD, there are a number of programs made by the same company that are used in, for example, visual effects or video games. So the interior logic of each software company is usually fairly consistent across their software. Similarly with Adobe, once you've done a certain amount of time in Photoshop or Premiere Pro, if suddenly you need to learn Audition to edit sound, it's a very similar interior logic. So I think that's another thing that one could pitch in an interview scenario, is a familiarity with like a family of software, even if you've not used the specific one that this company is using. And that similarly, I could imagine if you're looking for work, to look for jobs that are using a software family that you're already familiar with.
Yeah, very well said. So what you see here, and we'll try, we'll give a few more tries also with other people, is that it's often simply about how you look at it, like, and you kind of spin it, right? So for instance, for myself, as I said before, so I'm a career coach now, right? So I work with people. So it would be easy for me to think like, oh, so my next job has to be career coaching, and that one after that, and that one after that. But as I said earlier, why couldn't I spin that into being a community manager at an NGO? Very similar. Or maybe I could use the same skills as a life coach. Actually, also, if I combine all my skills, then it also could be like event production even, or project management. It really depends on how you spin it, but it does really work. Let's get back to Andrea for a second. So when you heard these things, does this make any sense, or does this sound like utter nonsense to you?
No, they totally make sense. Yeah.
Right. So how did it, before this, would you have guessed anything like this?
It makes sense. I don't know if like straight away I would have come up with the idea, but totally that like if you've been able to learn a software, like either it can be more complex or not, but still
Yeah.
it is definitely true that you are able to learn another one, either if
Yeah.
it's like in a similar,
Yeah.
similar, but you have the ability, which is, you have to sell yourself that you have the ability to do it.
And thank you for saying that, because what is really important to realize is that when you're looking for work, when we are applying, we are selling ourselves. We are the product in that case. So the same way that we would try and market a product, we should try and market ourselves, right? Boris.
Yes, hello. I have more of a question than a thought concerning this subject that Andrea brought up. If I was thinking through the technical skills she talked about, and obviously if you were able to learn a specific language or program, you develop some skills as well, like you're being analytic and you're being very organized in logic processes.
Exactly.
So my question is, am I being forced to apply to a job that uses these skills specifically, or maybe I'm looking at it in the wrong way and I should look at it in a more broader spectrum, like I can be useful to these many fields or areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for the question. We'll get let's do Suganya first, and then I'll get back to you, Boris, because you point something very important out. By the way, if I forget to answer your question, remind me, please, because sometimes I forget a little bit. Suganya, what did you say your you thought your non-transferable skill was again? I forgot.
The technical skills.
The technical skills.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of a specific one?
Yeah, sure. Like I'm from fashion industry, fashion and textiles. And if I want to, I'm in Finland currently, and I want to make my jobs in IT field. How come I don't know how it's possible to transfer my fashion skills to IT? Because I want to learn everything in new. That's the problem here.
Okay, wait a minute. So you have technical skills in the fashion industry, and now you're wondering how would that transfer to IT?
Yeah.
All right. Aydin, you seem to have a thought.
Sorry?
Aydin, go ahead.
According to me, I'm a pharmacist. And when I came to Finland, I found like the language is a bit hard. Even though I learned it, I thought like I can't continue with this language skills. So I also I started learning programming language, and now I am searching the jobs in IT field. So according to me, anyone can change the career. It is completely upon our determination and hard work. The time that we spend to learn the new skills.
Yeah, that's definitely also true. I mean, and especially something like IT, I mean, eventually it's about learning how to code.
Yeah, we need good skills. So we must work for, especially when we are coming from completely from a different field.
Yeah,
have to understand what's going on.
Yeah, definitely. Vijay, if you have an idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of thoughts there. One is basically I have done a lot of fresher recruitment because I'm from recruitment experience as such over the years. So if I were to look back at freshers, in fact, on the campus when we would go and hire them, right? We are not looking for people with experience there. We are definitely looking at the people with the transferable skills. and more often than not in management colleges, we are actually hiring people into jobs that they have no clue about or they haven't majored in, to be very, very frank. But we do look at some of those basic skills that are required for, let's say, somebody to pick up a new skill, or somebody who already has a bit of, let's say, uh, relevant, or even if they're not relevant, probably remotely relevant skills like maybe learning ability, right? And logical thinking and organizational skills, time management, and the ability to, let's say, get across your ideas and thoughts and make a sales pitch, for example, right?
Yeah.
So, so these are the basic skills that people look at when they're hiring somebody from, let's say, an irrelevant background or a skill set which is not really complete with what you're really looking for the next job, right?
Yeah.
But having said that, I think it all boils down to a couple of points. One is whether you as a person are willing to really take up that, uh, I would say, I wouldn't call it risk, but then probably whether you're actually willing to take up that step to build your career in something that you don't have an experience in. That is one way of looking at it. And two, whether you're okay to really start over, right, from scratch in a job or an industry that is completely new to you, having had worked, uh, let's say, for some years in altogether a different field altogether. And the third point I just wanted to make is, although I'm willing to really take up that step to really learn, right, and build my skill base to be able to do a different kind of job or change my career altogether, is the hiring manager okay to look at me? So it all boils down to that. And there were instances from my experience, at least, where we could actually sell candidates' profiles to the hiring manager based on our personal interactions with some of the candidates. And we could match a lot of skill sets or a lot of trainable skills, I would say, against the job description and still be able to hire those people, especially when we are hiring for some new technology that has recently picked up in the market. But the hiring managers say, okay, I want somebody with, let's say, 3 years of experience with this skill. Where would you find them in the market? You would not find them in the market. But you would often basically, like you said earlier, you would basically make that sales pitch and build your case on the basis of the previous experience and the learning abilities of the candidate.
Actually, so this reminds me of the following, and to me, this is very important. So I want to emphasize this actually. If you have in the back of your head a list of transferable skills and your other skills, plus you have the ability to express them in such a way that other people can understand them, that means that any conversation that you have with other professionals could by accident become sort of a hiring interview. Because if you know your story, if you know your skills, and you can tell people these things in detail, how that works for you, that is going to make other people interested in you. Simply the fact that you're able to express them properly to them will make people interested in you. They're going to go, hey, this person knows themselves. This person understands how they work. This is very important and often overlooked, because while we're looking for work, we can get accidentally obsessed with, I need a job. So only thing we do is we learn to ask for work. Hey, is there work at your company? Is there work at your company? And we actually forget to tell our story, the story of where do my skills come from and how do I use my skills in daily life. Angeliki. You're muted.
I wanted to say, yeah, that I agree. And I think that a very important thing that also when I'm mentoring startups or entrepreneurs, and I'm also a mentee myself, but when I mentor them, I see that they they don't know exactly what they want to do. So for example, I want to become a data scientist, and I have background mathematics or not. What do you want to do? Do you want to do data visualization? Do you want to do data analytics? Do you want to do machine learning? So a way to help you if you don't have the skill set is to choose something that you want to and then pursue it and say, I'm going to do a Coursera course. I'm going to try on LinkedIn to meet people that do, like, I'm just using this example, data analytics, because I have a data science background. So where do you want to go? What is the future? And then, of course, by meeting people, you will discover it. But I think also personally I have this problem. I think the best thing you can do is to just put it out there, start talking. You don't have the solution. You are not at the end of the journey. You are starting, but you have to start and start communicating and of course networking. But I think it's also, if you come like from the fashion industry, what would you like to do? Would you like to work on the analytics? Would you like to work on the front end, for example? Where are you good at? And also what the company wants. So also for me, for example, I had studied AI and then my company, they wanted machine learning. So I did it, so sometimes the environment also tells you, I think you should go there, and you developed the skill set.
Yeah, really well said. Actually, that's like my number one tip with starting a career anywhere is first the question, where do you want to work? Where do you want to work? But the question doesn't end there. The question then becomes also why. And this is a very hard question to answer. Like when I sit here in my office and I coach people, most people don't know where they want to work because nobody ever asks you that. People only focus on the jobs that are available, right? Which is, by the way, a very small part of the whole market. And then even if they do know where they want to work, I'll ask them why. And you'd be surprised that 99% of the people, they have no answer. They look at me with big eyes, big as saucers, like, why? What do you mean question why? But it's a really valid question to ask, because once you start trying to answer the question of why, then you'll also start to understand which skills fit that, because your skills that you have acquired for specific reasons. You needed those skills to get somewhere. Maybe these skills came from the fact that your mom or dad has a specific profession. Maybe your skills came because you wanted to solve a specific problem. And then you get closer to the point where you can actually explain to people how it is what you do. Suganya, so when you hear all of this, what comes to mind?
What I relate is like testing is the field which I should look for, because I think it matched my older profession to the new one, which I can switch, because in fashion I'm good at upcycling. The renovation process, the old clothes and the machineries, production end-ups, I'll be using it for upcycling. I was doing it in India, and now I think it somewhat relates to testing, but I don't know, because the same answer, I should blink my eyes, but I'm nowhere the idea is. But what I think is the testing is the field which I can end up in IT. Yeah. But I'm not sure, because I don't know what are the departments in IT even.
But wait a minute.
Because I don't know.
Wait. Yeah. So here we go. This I love. To me, one of the best approaches to finding work and career is to go out there and ask questions to answers. So you have questions about the, what's the word? The ecosystem, right? You have questions about these companies. This is an amazing opportunity to contact people in those companies, to contact people in functions that you are interested in, and ask them, how does this work? What did you study to get here? How does this work? What challenges do you have in the ecosystem? What challenges do you have in the apartment? Now, the best thing here is that while you're doing that, you're not asking for work, you're showing interest. Plus, you are learning more and more about the place where you want to be in the first place. Once you have acquired this, now, and I'm going to say something quite radical here, but imagine you contact 10 companies and you start asking them the questions that you want answers to, that you need answers to in order to propel your career forward. You get all this information. Where do you put that information? Well, you put it in your cover letter, your CV, and your LinkedIn. So you feed that back in there. Now, here's the thing. I always tell people this system is very simple, but nobody ever does it because people think, no, but if I call a company with a question, they're going to think I'm stupid. No, actually in Finland, they're going to think, hey, this person wants to learn more. Plus, that's also how you are going to figure out if you're on the right path, because maybe while you're contacting these companies and these people, you realize, hey, wait a minute, it's actually not these kind of companies that I'm looking for, but it's these kind of companies or this ecosystem, or not this function, but actually that function. In that time, you're actually learning about what you should be doing in the first place. Travis.
Yeah, just to back up what you're saying there, I found I've been here for about 2 months now, and I come from a radio background, and obviously that's a radio background in the UK. So trying to transition into, like, my job is, well, English language. I don't know Finnish yet. I'm learning, as I imagine a lot of people are. But I found that instead of going and just going, can I chat to you about maybe me having a job, just asking questions about what the industry is like here, because it's so completely different to the UK. So radio and podcasts and other stuff. And from that, I learned that, well, actually, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. It's not radio that I want to do. Maybe it's I want to give training seminars on how to make a podcast and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wanted to back up that point. I would never have thought about that before, but I just started reaching out to a lot of different independent people and companies, and it's worked.
This is actually also a great opportunity for us to figure out what more is out there. What should I actually be doing, right? What's my mission here? Now, I know that sounds a tad dramatic, but this is an opportunity to figure out, is what I was doing the best fit? Is there more? And I'll give an example. This is my favorite. So I see a big analogy between dating and looking for work. And most people, they're obsessed with, I need work. They look on LinkedIn, are there jobs? And somebody told them they have to be direct and bold. So they go to companies and people and they go like, hey, do you have work? Do you have work? It's the same thing that if I'm single and I go to a club and I just start asking women, hey, you want to date me? You want to date me? That is creepy as hell. That doesn't work. In dating, we understand that. But when it comes to finding work, we forget that there's a game to be played. Now, if I go to a company and instead of saying, I want something from you, give me a job, but actually I say, hey, I'm super interested in what you guys do. I find you on the web. I'm interested in maybe pursuing a career in that, or I'm interested in the same function. Hey, would you be open to having a cup of coffee with me, or that maybe I could interview you, because I would love to learn how you got to be where you are. And now here's the thing, as weird as Finland may be, you'd be surprised how many people say yes to that request. Like in my experience, 2 out of 5 people will go with it, especially if it's a startup, a small company, or a middle big company. With the bigger companies, it's less, but especially with startups and small companies, people will often say, yeah, I'll take 20 minutes of my time for you, or even have lunch with you, if you're willing to do that. But if you do that, you also have to make sure that you have your questions ready, and questions that you actually want to know. Questions that you actually want to know, not questions that you think are going to get you hired, right? So the most crazy advice I have is stop looking for work and start educating yourself. And here's the thing, of course, in that case, you're still looking for work, but to go again with the analogy of dating, it's the same way that if I'm I'm now at the club again, and there's a lady standing next to me, and I go like, hey, nice, I don't know, party, right? And we start casually chatting. She knows why I'm there, the same way the company or the person knows why you're there, but all of a sudden we're playing the game right. Makes sense, right? And often when it comes to dating, we understand this, but when it comes to work, we forget kind of these rules. All right. Next for you, I have, let me share my screen. Share. So here you have what I call the skill table. And there are skills. Wait, let me actually put the slideshow on. You can probably see it. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take 10 minutes. You're going to fill in your skills, transferable skills. You're going to divide them into 3 groups: people, data, and things. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter in which column you put anything particular. Simply the point is you have something to hold on to. Oh, this is kind of like a people skill. This is data. This is things. When in doubt, put it anywhere. Does it really matter that much? People skills can be managing people, listening, right? Those kind of skills. Data can be analyzing, can be organizing data. It can be processing data, right? And things are more practical, like painting, like woodwork, like building. I would like you to take 10 minutes. Wait, I have no clue what time it is actually. Where's my phone? I want you to take 10 minutes. So till 11:05. And I want you to write down for yourself as many skills about yourself that you could come up with. Think about when you did like small jobs when you were younger. Think about what you've done in the past. Think about what you've studied. Think about volunteering you've done. Think about the fact that you manage a group of orcs in World of Warcraft. Think about the fact that you've organized indeed a wedding of 1,000 people. Anything goes. Don't only stick with what's on your CV for this. Now we're going to turn this into a little bit of a competition. I want quantity over quality here in this case. Go nuts, 10 minutes, and get as many out there as you want. Any questions? Okay, if you get stuck through the midsection somewhere, just raise your hand and I'll be then back with you. So till 11:05 and go. I'll be right back. All right. So let's continue. Who would like to share some of the skills they have found? Shelby.
Okay, so I really tried to take up all the time just writing all kinds of things down. I think that one of my skills is kind of like not just problem solving, like that's been a big skill of mine throughout the years, but like finding the problem, because I've learned that, you know, not everybody has the same kind of level of communication skills. And so sometimes finding the problem through the communication is really important.
Nice, really
And
cool.
I mean, I wrote all sorts of things, even some things that are just my hobbies. Like, you know, I like to cook, I like to share recipes, I like to make recipes. You know, I studied philosophy in school, so ethical reasoning. It's something that sometimes I put it on my resume, but I wonder if people, you know, understand what I mean by ethical reasoning and how important that is to, well, everything.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
let's play with this a little bit. Can
Yeah,
we take
sure.
you as an example?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's go with the first one you said. You mentioned finding the problem,
Mhm.
right? It's a very specific skill, right? Okay, we're going to try something here. It's going to be probably challenging. This is an exercise to make a point. But let's see how this goes. And we're going to do this, we're going to do this now for the next hour. So can you give an example of how you find the problem? And think about it like this. Imagine I'm a hiring person, or I'm somebody with a company where you want to be. You're trying to explain this to me in such a way that I understand that you have this skill. What will you tell me?
Well, I think I would explain how I used to work with the system Acadus at one of my old jobs working for the state of Indiana. And in the system, sometimes you might see something differently from how you would usually see it. You might see a course or something set up for participants that might just look a different way. So you might go to the person who set up that course and ask them why they've set it up in this specific way. And you know, you might think that the problem is you're just not understanding what they were trying to do when setting it up in this way. But then you might find out that, you know, they didn't know that they could set it up in a different way. And so there was a knowledge gap there that needs to be filled in. And so you can find, you know, a teacher for them to, you know, learn that system better, or you can, you know, step up yourself and say, oh, did you know you could set it up in this different way? And I think it might be a little bit more efficient for the participants to join.
Right, pretty clear, pretty clear. So there's a challenge, then your solution, and then an outcome. Am I correct? Very well done. Okay, let's try somebody else. I'm gonna try and pronounce your name. I'm very sorry, it's so hard sometimes. Jesus, Azra, can you please tell me your name? It's really hard. You're
Azra is enough.
Azra, Azra is okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Azra, do you have an example of a skill?
Well, to begin with, actually, my career history has been quite vast in area. I have worked for the airlines, for the stock exchange. I'm a legally trained advocate and solicitor at one time. My last profession for the past 17 years, until I took up early retirement, was actually in diplomacy. I was with the government, so we were doing high-level.
Let me stop you there for a second. Could you pick a skill that you enjoy using, that you would like to use in the future?
Speaking.
Speaking. All right.
Yes.
Same question. Same question. Can you give me an example of how you use speaking at work?
Public speaking, for example, I've done emceeing work for large, and it's actually for official functions, actually, which actually, well, back then, we had people in the audience from ministers and monarchs and so on. So that's sort of a level that
Okay.
I have worked
Okay.
on. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. I'm going to point something out, not to be mean or rude, but to make a point.
Mhm.
You told us that you've done it.
Mhm.
And you've told us who showed up.
Mhm.
But did you tell us how you use it?
How I used it. I need more understanding
Okay.
on this.
So public speaking is a skill,
Yes.
right? Why is it a skill? Is it a skill because it's easy?
Public speaking is not actually easy, not at all.
Exactly.
You
Okay,
need
exactly.
you need to have your confidence.
All right, confidence.
You know, and that's a lot together. And when you're preparing the scripts yourself
Mm-hmm.
to be approved by a certain level of people in the government
Mm-hmm.
before you can actually speak it out.
All right, all right. Now we're getting somewhere. So I have a question to the audience.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you guys a question. And if you agree, then use the raise hand button. Yeah. Did Azra, in her first example, tell us more about her job or about her skill, or in the second? In the second, right? Raise your hand if you agree with that. Exactly. So this happens all the time. We forget that our skill is a problem-solving tool. So we also have to explain it like that, right?
Mhm.
So what challenge do you overcome by the skill of public speaking?
I think the ability to speak with clarity, and then
Okay, let's start with that. Wait. This is really interesting because you're correct. Ability to speak clearly. Now we're getting to the point. So there's the skill public speaking, but part of that skill is clarity. So your skill or your transferable skill is actually multiple skills in one. Okay, let's start with that. So how are you more clear?
When you are speaking to a large audience like that, you really have to ensure that you're getting their attention.
Okay, wait, good. Now we're getting somewhere. So you need their attention. So public speaking, creating clarity, but first you need their attention. How do you do that?
Well, it's pretty much like you need to get their attention. So, well, I guess it will be, you need to know the audience, and then you need to have something interesting or that fits the situation at that time.
Exactly.
So
in order to,
you know the target group, you know why you are there for, and then you need their attention to you so that the program can go on.
Exactly. Okay.
Because otherwise, everybody will be talking on top of each other or not paying attention to the master of ceremony or mistress of ceremony. Yeah.
Now here's the question. If I am in need of a person that knows how public speaking works, and you explain that to me, does that show me that you understand what you're talking about?
Well, I guess yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because we explain how it works.
Yes.
And this is where most of the time we go wrong. We don't explain what we do. We explain that we do it, you know, but we don't, yeah, please.
Yeah, and while you're doing it also, I mean, as a master of ceremony, you know there is a program and you need to be in control of the time. And it's like really very important. Like you really need for the program to run in accordance with time. And that's when you come in.
Exactly. Okay.
Punchline,
So now,
you know, and it goes on like that until it ends.
So now we know. Now, Azra, now you've told us there's public speaking, there's keeping the attention of the audience, there's timekeeping.
Yes.
Right. Now we get now I understand. You know this. This is your specialty. And by the way, I might add, and this happens every single time I do this exercise, When you just tell what you do, you're lifeless. But when you start telling the details, your eyes light up. You start to talk with your hands because a story comes out because you know this. You start to smile because you're proud of this. So by taking these skills, whether they are skills or transferable skills, and learning to express them in such a way that other people understand them, we understand that we understand them. That makes us more confident in interviews. That makes us more confident while pitching ourselves, because all of a sudden you realize, I know shit, right? All right. Yihong, you had a question.
Hi. I don't have a question. I raised my hand because earlier you said raise your hand to react to
Right.
answer about the public speaking, but I'm very slow because I have my
No
baby
worries.
next to me. So sorry
No
about
worries.
it. Yeah.
Sure. Naomi, do you have a question?
Well, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. After what Azra just said, I was just thinking, I think we forget to explain the why, because maybe we expect, like in the interview, maybe it would be kind of like a conversation and they would ask us more details. But what I've realized is that actually the hiring managers, they don't ask those questions. You have to be the one to tell.
Exactly. Very well said, Naomi. Yes, exactly. Because there's a few misconceptions. Often we think what we can do, everybody can do. So we forget to explain it. But often we also forget to explain to the people that need to know that we are able to do it. I have a very simple example. It's a bit of a silly example, but it's true though. If I go to a job where they need a waiter, and they ask me, what are your skills? And I just say, well, I can wait tables. I didn't say anything. But if I can explain to the person in front of me that I understand that it's important that when I'm in the bar and I'm waiting tables, that I'm visible so the customer can see me. I understand that I have to stand up straight. I understand that I have to go to the table and have my notepad and pen ready. Now, all these things sound obvious because it's a waiting job, but for the person hiring me, it matters that you know. Simple, actually, right? Okay. Who else would like to give an example of a skill?
Hi, this is Simon.
Yeah.
So going back to what Azra was saying, it's following guidelines and processes. So you might have to condense information, tailor it to fit specific guidelines or a process, and then present it to an audience.
Sorry, one more time. I didn't follow completely.
It's just going off what Azra was saying before.
Yeah.
So you may be given some specific guidelines, or you're asked to follow a process. And then you need to gather information, present that information, tailor it so it fits the guidelines before you present it then to an audience.
Understand. All right, let's try to go with that one. Can you give an example of how you've used that skill?
When training people in how to use specific software, you first of all need to know what the software is and how it works. You need to know what they need to know.
Okay, wait, I'm going to stop you there
to
for a second, Simon. Okay, so from now on, and with whoever comes with an example, I'm going to ask the same things, same questions I have. So one way to describe what you do, a skill, is by saying that you've done it, which I understand. But I would like to hear from you guys how you do it, right? So the how part is what's the challenge and what's your solution and what was the outcome? So Simon, if you could give it another go.
Okay, so the challenge was that there was a new piece of software that was being rolled out, and people needed to know how to use it and why they needed to use it. And so I needed to learn how to use it myself. I needed to know how the business was going to use it.
Yes.
And
yes.
then I would prepare a training package, basically.
Right.
And then it would need to follow specific guidelines, for example, branding. So I need to bring that all in and then test it. So run it past senior managers who have a stake in the software being rolled out.
Exactly.
And then, yeah, present it then to the audience. So online, for example, or face-to-face.
Right. And what was the outcome of all of this?
The outcome was that when the software was rolled out, people hopefully felt confident in using it, or at least they would know where to find out more information about it.
Yes.
More training. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. So Simon, when I first asked you the question, you started to say what it is you did, and now you explained it. If you would be in front of a hiring manager, which story would have more impact?
The latter. So,
right?
Yeah.
Simple, right? The thing is, I'm not telling anybody anything we don't know yet. I'm just pointing it out that we have a tendency to go for what it is that we did, but we need to explain it. We need to explain the transferable skills. The same thing goes when you put it in your cover letter or your CV. Do we explain how it is we use these skills? It also makes us realize, is this actually a skill that I have? And do I actually know how this works? Because I might realize maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. That's also possible, right? Or you actually realize, hey, I'm way better at this than I realized because I start to explain it actually to myself. Okay, so you have your table of skills. Let's go back to it one more second. You have your skill table. I would like you to take a few minutes and to do the following. Can you put an X to the next to the skills that you like, an X next to the ones that you like, and an O next to the ones that you are also that you believe you're really good at? And it can take a minute to do this. All right. So you have written your X and O's. So probably you see that some of the skills have both an X and an O next to it. Let's take somebody as an example. Cynthia, could you name one of the skills that has both an X and an O next to it?
The quality.
Quality. Okay, really good. Now, I'm going to ask the same thing again. And as I said, the next half hour, I'm going to ask the same question over and over and over. My apologies for that. But the practice, the repetition is really, really good. And I suggest that anybody who wants to practice, practices with me now, because this is harder to do at home by yourself. Okay, so quality. Can you tell me an example of how you solved a problem at work with quality?
Improving timing or trying to find the source of the problem, and in order to improve the quality.
Okay, there we go. So now you have a description, right?
Yeah.
Can you give an actual example, a moment during work where you did that? Maybe you can tell about what company it was, how many years ago, what your function was. So be more specific.
I was analyst of the process. So I saw one process, it takes too much time with the so with the engineers of the machines, because they need to try it before and during the process. So I improved that process, telling the guys that the engineer come early to check the machine before the process start and run two lines before the process and the product will be there. So when the product will be there, because it was ice cream and we are in a hot weather, so you cannot wait the product standing there. Meanwhile, the machine is running and trying to configure it and everything. So I run a couple of tests before and then bring the product and I start to process all the line.
All right, really good. So same thing I asked before also. What was more clear, the first story or the second story? Second one, right? And everybody's always like, obvious. Yes, exactly, right? Okay, yeah. I'm going to help you a bit more even. I have a tip for you. Let me share my screen. I only have one other slide, this slide, real life examples. So one more time, I'm going to ask you the same question and think about it like this. What was the specific challenge? What was your solution and your approach? And what was the outcome? Now, the main focus here should be your solution. If it would be easy, I could do that job. I'm pretty sure I can't, right? You can do this. Tell me what you did and be detailed. Go again.
Okay, so the challenge was improving the line of the packing ice cream. My solution was running the machine before the product it was waiting there to improve the packing and the timing and all the process, and the outcome it was very good and cute ice cream, very well packed, and I improved the timing and all the stress in the co-workers.
Okay, which example was better, your first, your second, or your third?
Third one.
The third one, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, nobody has ever told us to speak like this. Nope. Nobody has ever told this. This is why we're not good at it. It took myself also many, many years, and we need practice. We need to practice this. So what you can do at home, if you're interested, is you can take the skills that you have written down that have both an X and an O next to them, and write down your answer of the real life example. Challenge plus your solution or approach plus the outcome. Now, why do you think I recommend to write this out? Does anybody have an idea? Naomi.
Well, I wanted to go next, actually.
Oh, okay. Does anybody else have an idea? Why do you think it matters? Angeliki.
I think it matters because when we write things down, it helps us conceptualize them and move to the next step, because sometimes we just remain at the primitive stage, but writing things down and seeing them, the visualization also is another tool to help us, I think.
Definitely, exactly. Rupsali?
Yeah, I'm Pubali, actually, that's my daughter's name. I think it's very important because when we are putting it in this kind of formula, like I know the challenge, then I give the solution or the approach and I get the outcome. I think I'm not using only one skill. Probably I'm using a lot of skills.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll tell you, there's an even better reason why to write it down. And this is very important while looking for work. If I've written it down beforehand and I've formulated like this, whenever I need to then tell somebody this, I don't have to come up with it. This is great to do before interviews. You have an interview with the company, you write down your skills that are necessary for this job, you write down a paragraph of this formula per skill. That way, when they're going to ask you something, you have an answer. You can answer anything because you don't have to come up with it on the spot. It's easier on your nerves. You don't stutter. Simple, right? Chelsea.
Yeah, thanks. I just have sort of a question about that. So I've seen some companies, they have like recommendations on how to prepare for an interview, right? And so I've seen the STAR method, like situation, task, action, results. So how does this, in your mind, how does this differ from that? And is this much better to use across the board or specific to more transferable skills situations?
Okay, very fair question. So let's start with the last question first. So when I got asked to do this workshop, I had a challenging time because I was thinking like, what is the importance of transferable skills compared to non-transferable skills? And in my personal opinion, they're completely equal. What matters is how we express them. Transferable skills, for some reason, sounds a bit like secondhand skills or something, but they're not. They are as important as all the other skills. So that's why I don't discriminate between either. And when you say, like, should it be STAR or, for instance, this real life example formula, it doesn't matter. You could do STAR, you could do, what's the other one? SMART, I believe. There's mine. It brings you to the same level. Whatever exercise helps you to formulate an actual answer. I'll give the example one more time. Go for it.
Sorry, and so then regardless of sort of what template you might use, the solution and approach is the key piece that we want to highlight, right? Because that's the piece that shows off our skills.
Yeah, because what does your employer want? They want you to solve their problems that they either cannot solve or don't want to solve themselves. What we offer is a solution to their problems. This is also why my favorite question to ask a potential employer is, what challenges do you have with this function? What challenges do you have in the department? What challenges do you have in the ecosystem? And I'm going to promise you, people are going to share their story because people love talking about what isn't working. This is also really good to ask people without even if there's no job opening. Because if you have a person in front of you at a company where you're interested and you ask them, what challenges do you have? They're going to tell you. The only thing you then have to do is provide them with a potential solution. And that will start a conversation if you have that solution. But are you able to express your solution in such a way that the other understands you? Because if I just say, oh, I have a solution for you, I just have to believe you. And I probably won't. But if I say, oh, I've had a similar challenge in the past at my company where I worked, and my approach or solution was this story, making you understand that I know how this works and the outcome was positive, maybe we should have a conversation. Simple, right? It's quite elegant, actually.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure, absolutely. Naomi, you wanted to go next. Did you have an example of a skill?
Yeah, I do, but then I'm actually kind of confused.
Yeah.
Like, is it a skill? Would you call it a transferable skill? Learning, like fast learning
Oh,
fast?
definitely.
Okay, all right, go. So maybe I would say like, yeah, in my current role, I was given a task to organize and to organize data, sales related data, and I was tasked with coming up with like data visualizations. So while in Excel, and while I had used Excel before, I wasn't that advanced yet. So I had to learn very quickly, and within a couple of hours, I was able to build an interactive dashboard which showed on one canvas like all the reports that they needed.
Right. Okay. So what I hear you say is what you did and the outcome. Which part do you feel are we missing here?
How?
Yes, exactly. The most important part. How did you do that?
Okay. Well, yeah, I had to go online and take a short course on how to build data visualizations in Excel, and so I had to consume a large amount of information in a short amount of time, and then I was able to practice that on my own and then be able to produce the results.
Okay, so to me, it sounds like the most valuable skill here is the fast learning. You do that. There are steps you take that help you to learn fast. Now, to you, this might feel very natural because you're gifted in this. But if you think a bit longer, what are the actual steps? What are the little things you do in order to learn fast?
You're asking?
Yes.
Oh yeah, okay. So you have to, number one is research, because you have to find what you want to learn, find it out. Yeah. And you have to compile the data and sort it and analyze it, and then like memorize it, I guess.
Memorize it? Okay. So which example was more clear, your first or your second?
Definitely second. I noticed I only caught myself after you pointed it out that the how is actually missing, and yet I thought I had given it.
And by the way, this is super normal. We all do it all the time. We forget to tell how, or we forget to tell why. That's where the formula comes in. Okay, let's give it one more shot, and feel free to repeat yourself. So nothing wrong with repeating yourself. One more time.
Okay.
Give the example of fast learning. What is the challenge? What was the challenge? Your solution or approach and the outcome. And be specific. When did you actually use this? Which tools and all of that?
Okay. So yeah, my current role is given a task to make a report in Excel showing the sales information by by country, sport and region and so on. And so I had used Excel to do to report other things, but I hadn't delved into visualization before. So what I did is I accepted the challenge and took learned a short course on how to do it, and I had to concentrate and learn all this information in under 5 hours, and within that same day I was able to create an interactive dashboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
not bad, but again, you skipped over the how.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah. And by the way,
yeah.
I'm actually happy this is happening because this shows how important it is that we practice this. It is not easy because we think that it just because we do it ourselves all the time. So we just think, well, I just do it, right? So one more time, and add the how. What is specifically, and you did it earlier, so you know this. You know this. One more time.
I actually
I
thought I
interrupt?
mentioned how I did that, how I went and learned a short course online, and I had to consume a lot of information in under 5 hours, and then replicate that. Doesn't that kind of
Well,
explain?
so earlier in the second example you gave, you actually pinpointed 3 parts of what you did, how you did it. Remember? You were talking about compiling data. Can't remember the other 2 though.
Okay. Right. Okay, so yeah, so during this task I had to compile to gather the data that I needed, and I had to sort it, and I had to organize it within Excel, and I had learned that only in just under 5 hours, and I was able to build the interactive dashboard, not just a dashboard, interactive dashboard that
right.
Yeah.
Do you feel the difference?
Right, yeah.
It's not easy, right? It's very hard. All right, Rupsali.
Yes, I would like to share an example like in this formula. Like it was long back when I was working in a newspaper and I was working with the advertisement department. There was one client of ours who was a regular advertiser, but he was not comfortable to come up to the front page because it costed money, a huge amount of money. And he was not sure about the ROI. So before me, there were some 11 people. They were managers who tried to convince with a lot of data. I was the 12th or the 13th person. There was no pressure on me. So I could go, because I was newcomer at that point of time, and I wanted to build relationships. So that was my approach. And I still wanted to, he was a regular advertiser, but I still wanted to take up that challenge to bring him on the front page. Well, I also tried data. I also tried to convince him the impact, everything. Then I was talking to the designing team, the advertising team in-house in my newspaper. And we both, together, we came up with an innovation. I made one dummy of his advertisement, his advert on the front page. And I just simply presented it one fine morning, how it looks actually. He was very happy.
Very good. There you go.
He was very happy. And eventually, not that time, eventually he was finally convinced. And when I think back now, that point of time, I didn't think, I was very happy I could do it. But now when I think, I have used actually a lot of skills there. I was patient. I negotiated. I followed up. I networked with a lot of people. And I used communication, and I gained visibility and confidence.
Yeah. To me, thank you so much for sharing this. So it can be interesting for all of you to actually make a database for yourself of your skills. You don't put them yet in your CV or cover letter or LinkedIn. First, make the database, write down a description using the formula, and then once you have that, then according to the companies where you apply, you pick and choose which ones are relevant. And you'll see that way more skills are relevant than you thought to begin with. Okay, let's do one more, and then we go to the Q&A. Who else would like to give it a shot? All right, if there's, yeah, Liz, good. What's your skill?
Okay. So I teach a course I teach in communication studies, and I teach a course called Intercultural Communication to a general population of undergraduate students who have, and by the way, this is my first attempt at trying to make an academic skill transferable to the non-academic world. So this is a general group of students from all majors who really have no previous experience with this subject. So my challenge is, how do I choose, and what material do I choose to introduce the students to the subject with during this limited period of time that we have for the semester? So I try to think about myself as a curator, which is a piece of advice I got years ago, that I was in charge of the particular material that students would get. And of course, there's an unlimited amount of material. That's the challenge. So how do I decide what material that is? And in order to do that, I have to put this curator hat on and think, okay, what do I think are the most important pieces that they need to view here? So I chose a combination of materials, all of them open access. So they're all free, none of them are paid. Free open access textbook and TED Talks and documentaries and articles from various news sources and academic databases. And the feedback that I've gotten from students in this course has been overwhelmingly positive, in that they weren't sure what this field of intercultural communication was before they started, but that what they really enjoyed was being able to engage with other students from such a wide variety of disciplines about how it might be useful in their chosen career path. And also, it's a really useful way to discuss contemporary issues, which they're all really interested in doing.
All right. Thank you so much, Liz. Really nice. So you gave a really nice story. It became a story, right? How this works for you. However, as usual, and this always happens, you skipped over the most interesting part. What do you think I'm going to ask you next?
I don't know, because tell me how did I do it? Or the how part?
So you had a great story. You were very close, but the curating part itself, how does that work? Why is that difficult?
Oh, why is it difficult to choose the material, or how I deliver the material? What's the
well, it can be both.
Part? Okay, well, it's difficult to choose the material because there's an endless amount of things that you could potentially include in any course, really. When you're teaching, the role of curation is difficult because there's no limits. You have to decide how you're going to organize the material, right, and where you're going to source the material from, and all kinds of questions about verifiability of sources and the usefulness for the students, the relevance. And then also it's challenging because there's a very specific platform that you have to use to deliver the material, which is an educational platform, and you have to decide what material is going to be visually engaging, what kinds of things will students connect with, and how can you present it in that particular platform.
Exactly. So do you feel, if you would tell a potential hiring manager that all that information is relevant?
You're asking me if it's relevant?
Yes, for the hiring manager.
I don't know. I mean, yes.
Yes.
I think.
Yes.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a little bit of technical skill stuff going on in there.
Yeah. Thank you, Liz.
I'm so sorry. The other session is about to start, and apparently, since we are using the same Zoom account, they can't do it at the same time. So they kindly asked me to finish this one now. We have about a minute left. I'm so sorry. It was a really, really valuable session. I hope many of you got many valuable tips. Joppe, can we do it so if people still have questions, is it okay if they send them to you, or should they send them to me and then I may be able to forward them to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah, and also know that if anybody ever wants to come visit us at the Shortcut, we're open from 10 till 4 every day, and you can come right here.
Yeah, okay, great. Then we'll do it so I'll share the recording anyways next week with all of you. And then I will also share Joppe's email address with you. And then any questions you might have, you can put forward to him. I'm really sorry. We have to quit like now, because I think this was a very good session. Thank you so much, Joppe.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for speaking up. It's really nice this way.
Yeah. And yeah, have a great rest of the week, everyone. And then you'll hear from me again next week with the weekly update. Welcome again to all the newcomers in our team, and yeah, take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have a good midweek. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.